Morning, Minty. Happy Sunday.
Good morning, Whaley. Happy Sunday to you too.
Is Happy Sunday even a thing, or is that just like?
I don't know. I feel like Happy Sunday is something that people say. You know, the same people say, "Have a happy Monday." Have you got the Mondays? Have you got?
No, I'm sure he'll bounce. I'm sure he'll bounce on as our only viewer. But I did say to Christian Byfield, he was showing me one of his very exciting AI enhancements at the depository. But he started it off with super excited to bring it to you, and he almost lost me there. Was super excited.
Whaley, you've been swimming again this morning.
I've been like is it an exocet? Is it an exocet anyway, I propelled through that water like the hunt for Red October. I managed, I've got this, I haven't told you, I've got this nemesis who's this pensioner. I don't know why you're bringing that up. Okay.
Oh, sorry. That's what they call juxtaposition. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I've got this nemesis who's a pensioner who quite often has no respect, interestingly enough, just to segue it brilliantly, like Trump for international law or line etiquette in the pool. And we have a little bit of a battle going on that is I'm winning at the moment.
Well, let's just let's touch on Trump because everyone's got an opinion on it. So Denmark has renamed Greenland Epstein Island just to sort of keep him away from it at the moment. What do you make of it? I mean, other than the fact that I think last week we discussed that EXP agents in Venezuela are now a thing, and they're getting ready to take over Greenland.
Well, I don't want to be contentious, Mincy, but you know what? On the whole, I'm anti-paedophilia. I'm not I've weighed it up. I don't want to just jump in one way or the other, but I'm not a big fan. I do think we are actually beyond the kind of the Rubicon at the moment, or behind the looking glass, as they say, where it does feel like every bit of mad shit is literally like. Do you remember there was a comedy series called Big Train? And yes. It was basically about this boss who the staff would come in and complain about something, and he'd do things like juggle kittens or do a trick or something just to completely distract him. It feels like the whole planet is doing that at the moment, isn't it? For the fear of redaction.
It's craziness at the moment, but there are some very real changes happening in the planet. I think it's very likely that Iran will become a free society by the end of the week, which is, I think, very exciting for the region.
Look, I think it's fingers crossed on that, isn't it? And it is amazing. And as ever, it really does have to come from within. And it's a real challenge for somebody, obviously, as woke as my good self. In obviously, when he went batshit mental, funny enough, when they were just about to release the files previously, and he did obviously with Israel, they hit Syria, didn't they? And they hit Iran, and they hit, and you have to get into your head that obviously this is classic Western powers throwing their weight around. But what you can't even though I despise Trump, what you can't then sort of say it hasn't been a benefit is that Hezbollah has obviously largely been destroyed. Syria now, through its own devices, is
becoming more diplomatic.
There. You look at him, he has kidnapped an act of war the other day, Trump again. But it wasn't like the Venezuelan leader there was so it's a really tricky place to be in at the moment, isn't it?
I think that's it, isn't it? Because the Venezuelan leader was nobody's favorite and he was no angel. I think everybody just went, "Oh, well, you can take care of him for us." And I think what you're trying to express is that, in as much as you are outraged by him taking things that don't belong to him, along the way, he is doing some residual good, in as much as the world order's being shaken up, so that people have to have the chance at a new beginning.
I'll call it now. Look, there will be yes, and it proves that everything's not just black or white. Which would be ironic because they wouldn't have been able to have stayed in any of Donald Trump's apartments in the past, which he got obviously picked up on. But look, I think call it now is what I think he's literally like the kid at Christmas, isn't he? Not least because he did actually bomb Nigeria on Christmas Day, didn't he? And kind of delivered that Christmas message to them. But the way he spoke like a child about the power, and he's quite right. I mean, nobody can do that kind of military stuff, as well as them. But it's almost like then the fact that they didn't have a clue what was going to happen day 2, was it? It's just like,
you saw him when he was asked, well, who's going to run the country? And he just goes, these guys behind me. And that reminds me of you when you go, yeah, we're going to do conferences. Well, who's going to run them?
Well, I'll tell you what, I think this is going to, we spoke about it briefly last week, didn't we? But, obviously you're party to who we're talking about. I mean, obviously, whenever we used to go over to AREC in Australia, and Tom Panis would always stand there on the Gold Coast and he'd say, this is going to be the biggest and the best ever. And, and it's sort of like, but I couldn't be more excited about the Kerfuffle conference.
You do love a conference, don't you?
I do, and I keep coming back to it again. It's because in this digital age where it's so easy to appear bigger than you are, better than you are, and everything else, being face-to-face has a reality to it, and I think an added value in this age of AI slop. It is the face-to-face bit that is we need to retain and make sure is it's the only differential at the moment, isn't it?
It is indeed. It is indeed. It's going to become ever more important. Right, Mr. Whale, we're going to bring back a game. It's called Agree or Disagree. It's the property quiz. I fire a statement or a question at you. You have to tell us whether you agree or disagree with it and offer a little bit of explanation. Try not to get cancelled along the way because some of them are a little bit curveballish. Right?
To be honest, my whole career has been trying to get cancelled, and I've, in many ways, there is a kind of Trump link there, isn't there? The Teflon Don and the Teflon Whale. But I tell you what, just before we do, did you see Russell Quirk told me a new one? Because obviously Simon Bradbury, I won't say he forced me kind of like in any other way that it was positive, but he did force me last year to do the property predictions article.
Yes, I saw that.
And I wasn't 100% right, but I did tell the time is look, I really don't have any merits to be able to comment on this. So before we go into this, can I just do the normal caveat, of course, that I am from the world of proptech rather than anything at all to do with property?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Do you know what? I think that we covered this last week as well, that you have spent 3 decades in property and you still consider yourself to be an outsider.
Well, look at this fella here. You talk about 3 decades. Mr. Robert May is joining us here. I mean, this is the man that virtually created lettings. Certainly most people will know, obviously, the old CFP software that if ever there was something that...
I have heard it said that Queen Victoria found Robert May on the steps of our hallowed institutions, raised him up into property, and he created the modern industry that we know today.
It feels like that's that Alan Partridge thing where you then say, thank you, Robert, for sending me in that to read out.
No, Robert has been doing this for longer than most of us. He's seen it all. Right, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Simon Whale, agree or disagree?
Yeah.
PropTech hasn't reduced workload, it's just changed what we're busy doing.
Okay. Say it again.
PropTech,
yeah,
it hasn't reduced our workload, it's just changed what we're busy doing.
No, I think it has reduced the workload. I think there's no doubt at all you can say that otherwise there's literally no point to doing it. I think the key... well, you know what I'd be really fascinated to look at, David, is looking at what the average amount of staff there was in an agency office, say 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years now, the amount that's being done and everything else with increased compliance and everything else that's being lumped on top of it. And I think the fact that we are dealing probably with less people in those offices shows that technology is filling a crutch. Is filling a really valid role there. Are agents being busy fools? I think there's definitely a piece to that, isn't there? So yeah, I can't even remember if I agree or disagree now. So I think
I think you're disagreeing with the statement that PropTech hasn't reduced the workload.
I do disagree with that. Yeah, I disagree.
Okay, fine. Let's step it up.
And look, we got, again, he's got to stop coming on because we give him a free. But the depository is a classic example of that. If you look at what those guys do, and again, I'm not going to shout for him because he'll come out with it, but the new AI stuff they're doing around AI proposals and everything else there, you can't look at that sort of stuff and say that it's not making a material difference.
Christian raises an interesting point. He says the tricky thing is, in lettings 20 years ago, you didn't have to do 90% of the work that we have to do now, because the name of the game has changed due to legislation and due to sort of just the various different the extension of an agent's job. Mr. Robert May, technology is putting a barrier between agents and the public.
Find that interesting. It'll be interesting to get a bit of I mean, I can see where you're going with that, and I think there is definitely, because it should be the exact opposite, shouldn't it? It should be making everything easier, and if it isn't, that's a remarkable failing. Who was it? I can't remember. We were at one of the conferences where somebody, was it Vicky from Location, and she was, I think she was citing somebody else where, don't implement any technology unless it's going to actually help the consumer, regardless of anything else. I think that's quite a nice focus to have when you're looking at an exciting, shiny bit of proptech. Is, does it actually material deliver for the end client?
Well, let's neatly segue off Robert May's comment into my next question. Agree or disagree? Estate agency is fundamentally a people business pretending to be a tech business.
Is it pretending to be a tech business? I don't think it's pretending to be a tech business. No, I disagree again. No, I agree fundamentally it is a people business backed up by by the tech and data that underpins it. So I think until those, what are they called? Is it Elon Musk's Optus robots are actually out there doing valuations, killing us all? I absolutely think it is a people business for the time being, with that little caveat: get out of jail goal.
Good morning to Amy Shields. She's there. What she's saying? She's saying, I wish AI could do compliance.
Yeah.
She of course doesn't wish AI could do compliance, because then she'd be out of a job. But compliance is very much everything that they do. The reason that AI can't do compliance at the moment, Amy, do you want to offer a statement or a reason for that? I think that we're getting closer to the day and age where AI is going to be able to spot anomalies. Question here is whether human behavior. Do you know how, like, you used to call your bank 10 years ago and it was press 1 for this and press 2 for that, and still actually I can't tell you how many estate agents we call where you've got such a massively long numbering system to get through to somebody human. But we got trained, didn't we, to get past the call centers? We got trained to get past the chat bots. Are we being trained to get past the AI bots and AI?
Let me ask you, because last week you were talking quite rightly about how I gave you the option to save the world from Skynet and absolutely certain demise if you turned it off, and you still said no. So let me ask you this: when you get through to an AI chatbot of any type, is the first thing you do to say, pass me through to a human, or do you try and persist with it for first of all?
Yeah, well, that's interesting. And I spoke to a few agents this week, actually, in Scotland. We were talking about AI. And one of those things is, if you don't like AI, you will do everything you can. The minute you twig that something is artificial, you'll try and do everything you can to get out of it. But whereas most of us, I think, who are busy, actually don't care that much if it gives us what we want. I
prefer a chatbot. I prefer a chatbot, than phoning up and going through that rigmarole of 1, 2. As long as it is a good one, because then you can multitask and do all the rest of it. I absolutely do prefer that. Just as you were talking there, though, you were mentioning you were talking to all those Scottish agents. And have you seen that the brilliant Scottish comedy Still Game?
Yes.
Have you seen the one when the two Scots are caught in the lift and it's an AI lift, and then and you go, oh no, what are we doing in here? It's not going to understand us. And for the next half an hour, they're trying to do American accents, English accents. We'll have to post at the end of it because it is.
Well, You say that because literally my first hour in Scotland, so I arrived, lovely place, lovely people, invited me down to talk about proptech and technology innovations, and great. Sat around this table, and there's the agents, and there's developers, there's investors, there's all sorts of interesting property people. And then I realized, because sometimes that drive up to Scotland is a beautiful scenic drive, and you forget at some point the language barrier completely just comes up at some point after Gretna Green. And I arrived, and the guys were like, yeah. And I'm like,
wow,
sorry, what?
Well, I would like to apologise to our Scottish viewers for that casual racism.
No, what I'm trying to say is it takes me about an hour to tune my ears in, and for the first hour I kept going like I was deaf. Like, what? Excuse me, pardon? Can you repeat that again? So eventually,
thank God you said they were all lovely people, because otherwise we'd be dealing.
They are all lovely people, and do you know what? I walked away from that thinking that somehow, and I think they'll probably agree with me. The agents north of the border, we don't hear enough from them. We don't see enough of them, and they have their own conferences and their own distinct regions. But I feel like they have something very interesting to give to the property industry in terms of opinion, and getting them involved.
That's just because of the very different, obviously, the property system up there with missives and all of that kind of stuff. Do you think that
all that sort of stuff, mainly because Maggie Thatcher used Scotland and Wales as experimental hunting grounds for various different bits of policy over the years? But it has ever been so, hasn't it? So Scotland has had more, I would suppose, innovation, or more sort of evolution in terms of their property system there. There's a lot to be said about the way that they buy and sell houses in Scotland that would actually import quite nicely over here. So there we go. I am going to...
I'm not sure what that is.
I don't know. I'm going to look that up soon.
Be careful. He could be this. Now
that could be.
Yeah, like Ron Burgundy, where he reads anything off on the auto cue. You could be getting.
Don't do it. Heather Foster, good morning, my lovely.
Yeah, hello, hon.
She's one of my favourite.
She was. I tell you what, she was on Friday, wasn't she? She was on the Women in Estate Agency. Actually, because I forgot this, I didn't realise the lovely Angie Cooney nominated me for the interview with Verona on Women in Estate Agency, where famously I blubbed. I did my Jerry. I was going to say my Jerry Adams. It's not Jerry Adams, is it? It's Jerry Maguire. I did my Jerry Maguire and blubbed. But then I forgot you had to nominate somebody else. So obviously, it only made sense to have the lovely Heather Foster.
You Jerry Adams and Jerry
Adams is a
show me the money.
Well, there again, take that, you two, the two Russells. You don't get impressions on their show.
You don't get impressions on that. Well, okay, talking of Women in the Estate Agency, I'm going to turn the spice up a little bit. And again, this is agree or disagree, Whaley. So it's up to you to put this in to make sure that we don't get cancelled for asking the question in the first place.
Yes.
But here we go. Agree or disagree? Women in the Estate Agency asked for equality. What they got was a conference.
They asked for equality, and what they got was a conference.
And no, Amy will remind us it's not a conference.
Oh, that bullshit.
I guess the real question is, have things changed in the past 3 or 4 years for the better?
Look, so I think first and foremost, it's them applying a lot of the change anyway. So it wasn't like they demanded it and then, we sort of Putin and sort of Ukraine style. We gave them a conference to kind of say, there you go. They've delivered on that. Do you know what I think? I think it has. And look, this is in line with the trends that are going on anyway, aren't they? Things that literally just a handful of years ago that would be not okay to talk about, and quite rightly, and everything else. Those decisions those opinion points, and a lot of them very bigoted, have largely gone out of public discourse. My concern would be, and it is very similar, actually, if we go back to the old lunatic Trump and everything else there, where we would talk about where things like racism or all those other kind of things, they weren't being discussed 15 years ago in the way that is absolutely prominent and allowed to be talked about on Facebook and X now. because people knew that wasn't deemed acceptable. But now that people are just coming back with this everything is woke, they can say any old bollocks, horrible bollocks they want under that guise of freedom of speech. I mean, just to go left with it a little bit. Can you believe that? I mean, can you believe the absolutely tepid response that has come back from our government about X? Literally, Grok and his platform, Musk platform, is literally doing kiddie porn now on that platform. And all we're saying, Starmer came back with get a grip.
Interestingly, I uploaded a picture of you and said, "Could you please return this image as a nude, please?" And Grok straight off refused to do it. It said, "Hey, bro, he looks too old for me."
Yeah. The other thing is, but he did say, but there are 62,000 published photos of him naked anyway. So most of them at different conferences.
We'll come back to Weir and the conference in a minute. I think what you're talking about is what they call the Overton window, isn't it? It's what is acceptable to say, what is acceptable to be the discourse in our politics. It's what is acceptable for commentators to talk about, and that shifts. But that shift has been so far out of
It's what always happens. I'll post a quote later, but there's always that point about we swing far too much in one direction and then it bounces back a negative. That's just human nature. When we had Cameron, being passed the baton from New Labour, there was a sliver, there was no difference, and lots of people did kick back against a lot of those woke instincts and everything else. There, we've clearly now gone completely the other way. I'm sure it will bounce back as well. Whether that's what's going on with Zach Polanski and what's his name, Mumdani or whatever over in New York, it feels like there is a little bit AOC. It swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Matt Foster said asparagus.
That's our little code name. Thank you for that, Matt. Good to see you. Good to see we're attracting everyone.
Is this like the Manchurian candidate? Is he just activated you?
My response is the ducks fly west for Easter, Matt. Thank you. Thank you for that.
What a lovely man that is. I've never met him before, and then I met him at the RAND conference. I mean,
you have to say that because he's also quite handy, and he would batter you.
Oh, he would absolutely batter me, but it's a good job he can take care of himself because he's married to Heather Foster. So
definitely. I mean,
he needs to keep on his toes. Let's face it.
I imagine, like in Godzilla, let them fight. Let's see. Maybe that's the next charity bash we should do.
What, pitting brummies against each other? I'm not sure that's legal. I'm not sure we can do it.
I think if this industry doesn't do it, Channel 5 will do it. I'll take it to them.
Going back to the Women in the State Agency conference, famously they're shouting this year that it's not a conference. What do you, as a member of the public and somebody that has the ear and the hand and the eyes of some of the Women in the State Agency Committee, you're quite pally with some of them. What do you understand from that? And also, let's face it, you're such a huge fan of conferences. What do you understand by not a conference?
Look, it clearly is. It's like whatever way. It's like we said it ourselves, don't we? We don't want to just do. It's certainly not just another conference there, but until you're not getting a load of people in a room and you're paying for attendance and sponsorship and everything else, it's there. I think they have changed the concept of conferences. Going back to your original point about this with it there. And I like the idea. I mean, I do think the way of mixing that up and making it all very different is a great approach. But let me just ask you about it. So what's your view? I think our view on our conferences aren't they? Is we do a lot of the similar stuff there. We're just a little bit more relaxed about things. So we do firmly come at it from a full angle, don't we? Without taking anything away from the ability to kind of need to deliver and get learning and all that sort of stuff from it.
So what I will say is there is a distinct push. And so if you look at various different conferences, we attempted to do it with PropX, where it wasn't about property itself, but it was about the people and the struggles they've been through. That was highly successful, and it just alters the tune and the mode. Women in the State Agency have been doing that for a couple of years now, where basically you're turning up for a conference that is ostensibly filled with property personalities. But to be honest, if you were to write down the actual property points you'll come away with, very few, because what we're talking about is life and we're talking about experiences, and that is very much the value of those conferences. So I think there is a push to make all conferences a little bit more, dare I say it, touchy-feely, where we can actually sort of get to grips with issues that affect us in the workplace, issues that affect us at home. We're talking about illnesses, we're talking about challenges, we're talking about all sorts of different stuff. I mean, it's so I don't think it's exclusive to women in the state agency, but I think they definitely started part of that conversation very, very heavily.
I think if you think about, there's obviously so many, and we're responsible for largely as well for this. For obviously, it's if you look at it across the year, there's a lot of choice, which I think is absolutely fantastic to be able to get to. So they have to be different, don't they? Because you couldn't just turn out the same old, could you? On there, you've got the Grand Prix of the big three, haven't you? You've obviously got negotiators, Esters, and EA Masters there, and that's the centre point of it. So anyone around it needs to find a different niche, don't they, to be creative?
Absolutely. And if single issue, if you like, if you wanted to call it that, if single issue organisations, and I know that that's not the way that we could describe women in an estate agency, because obviously there are, there's a lot going on under that umbrella.
No, I think
it exists.
I think women can multitask, Mincy.
Much better than we can. But I think if you were to look at single issue conferences, I'm actually much more of a militant feminist than some of them, and I would say yes, it absolutely does need to put blood in the water. It needs to challenge all the precepts and everything that we're used to dealing with in this industry, and it needs to bring about change. That charter that they brought in is a really positive first step to those kind of changes. Yep.
It wasn't just a money earner that I thought, how do we do this? And can we come up with our own full charter?
let's look at a man that is very much in touch with his own ovaries, Mr. Christian Byfield. It's not just equality. What I've loved about the annual Women in the State Agency event is it opens our boys' eyes to our use of language, understanding of fears and challenges from women, and what they face, and a better understanding of what they end. But here we go. He says someone in any sector could attend WEA and walk away with almost the same lessons and learnings. It's about culture, mindset, attitude, not the actual industry itself. Well, there you go.
Well, if you talk about, again, the actual material change there, isn't it? So the fact that, again, talking about the people on that at the end of the scale, the likes of yourself and Toby have made the point quite relevantly now. So there's many more people now who are aware, from a man's perspective, if they're going onto a webinar, if they're doing an event and it looks like it's a sausage fest again, that actually it's a good idea for themselves just to make the point that, it is unbalanced. And have you thought about that? And, maybe at one extreme sense, if they're not giving you the response that they want, then, that maybe isn't the right one for me to go and give up your seat to it. But I'm always very conscious that you start getting the whole DEI argument about that, and that's what, when I asked Verona how can I be better and everything else there, she was very keen that wasn't going to be wasn't the angle. They don't want favors, they don't need it, do they? But I think if you talk about that change that there is around what's being discussed, what people feel okay to discuss. I mean, you spoke last week about Ben Madden's, group there. Would that ever have started up without women in a state agency? So perversely, if anything's going to help, the very real issues that are going on with men, suicide largely is a man's domain, isn't it?
I'd go one step further. I don't know if anybody would have ever heard of Ben Madden if it wouldn't have been for women in the state agency. I think it's propelled them to stardom.
Yeah. Well, I disagree. I mean, I quite like him, but
I'm kidding. Do you know what, Ben? A big shout out to Ben Madden, because as much as I tend to sort of rib him from time to time because he looks gorgeous and puts me to shame in terms of my mindset and how he treats his body and his attitude to life. Genuinely is actually a really, really lovely man behind the scenes. He texted me earlier this week, just happy New Year. If there's anything you want to talk about, I'm here. Hope you're doing well. He gave me a little sort of praise of what he'd been doing over the break. He's and we're not particularly close, but he's a lovely man for doing that. And actually, I did what all impolite people do, is that when they, when you ask them how they are, the worst thing you could do to a person is actually tell them. So I did. I went, okay, Ben, this is what's going on. All right.
Well, just so I'm clear, he is mine. So you find your own pair of guns.
I have to tell you, Christian Byfield is very much more my speed. We can eat together. It's fine. I can't keep up with Ben.
So
he's all yours, big boy.
Property Tinder on the Kerfuffle Podcast is now.
There you go. Christian has said the trouble will always be that the people and the businesses that both need to be there and to be part of that conversation aren't, and likely never will be. Christian, do you want to sort of give us an idea of the sort of businesses you're talking about without getting into a region where we can be cancelled or sued? Thank you.
The other thing is, though, that I think one of the things that I don't know about this, and it would be fascinating to know from our recruitment fans out there, whether that's Miles and Ian at Crux or that's Mr. Rayner, is has it materially affected? Because it's all very well as saying the right things, people are going to the right conferences and everything else. But has it genuinely affected the pay scale element there? So people doing the same job, whether that's property manager, valuer, or anything else, are women now getting the same as men in there? Because ultimately, if that's not moving the dial in that respect, then you would have to say it's not working so far, isn't it?
That's the real thing, when you talk about real change, and that's really the reason I asked you the question in the first place. Are we just allowing people to voice their opinions? Are we, on the surface of things, improving things, but have behind the scenes that gender pay gap is obscene, absolutely obscene. I mean, Heather Foster is paid a fraction of what I get paid at Kerfuffle, a fraction. and I have now caused the biggest HR issue for Monday morning. That's my gift to you, Whaley. You told me to stay in my lane. I've done it.
As David Brent says, let me put that in the filing cabinet.
Mincy staying in his lane, straight into HR. Straight into HR.
Yeah, so yes, it is. Well, look, I think it's an interesting
debate. Here's our lovely Sophie Lang. We need to create environments where women feel able to step up and be part of the conversation. I appreciate that organisers of webinars, etc., found it hard to find female voices, even with the brilliant list created by Harry. Women still need to say yes, and there seems to be a block which we need to fix.
Yeah, couldn't disagree.
Okay. Is Sophie asking us to fix it? She's saying she needs a man to fix it. All right, no problem. That's a stereotype. Whaley will sort it.
You know what they did need last week, though, as they were on one of their nights out? They needed Whaley to sing to them. So I was delighted to have got a call late at night from the from
Rhiannon. I got one of those as well. It was very amusing. I do like the Lang Llewellyn team. They work increbly hard. I have to say that they work incredibly hard.
And play hard. That's
it's amazing. Robert May. I think this is quite interesting. You can spot the men without daughters a mile off. They're still comfortable with the jokes, still directing technical questions to the junior lad instead of the senior woman. Still surprised when she outperforms them, and it's not that they're bad people; they just haven't had their vision corrected yet.
Yeah, that's quote of the day.
That is quote of the day, isn't it? Robert May, a shiny award is off in the post to you. We'll have to buy one of them. Right, Mr. Whale. Oh, here we go. Rhiannon Llewellyn. It wasn't a birthday. Happy birthday to Rhiannon. She's had. So both Sophie and Rhiannon have had big birthdays, I think, recently. So happy birthday to you.
That's how it works. They're almost annual, David, is my understanding.
Yeah. Sometimes greedy people get more than one a year. Here we go. It's changing, in my opinion, led by the hundreds of amazing SE women agents. Oh, self-employed women. Yes, now that's very interesting, isn't it? There is actually a really good sort of cohort of self-employed women agents, and we can name some of them here. Holly Price smashes it, doesn't she? Pretty much every time at various different awards, and obviously the EXP awards as well. But then you've got people like Katie Paul, who previously was part of another team, but then went out on her own and is doing it. It is really encouraging, isn't it, Simon?
It's brilliant. And the only thing about Katie Paul, who, if you'd asked me before last December, I would have said absolutely agree. But she didn't come to the RAND conference, so she's now persona non grata to me. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. Sam Corrin, I think I was lucky enough to make it to their conference with the amazing Jimmy Carr there, and she won the overall agent, and that's a powerhouse there. And I've got to say, is you see the expansion of the EXP agents. I think you were talking about it actually. If we come back to it in a second, one of the few times ever that I have been proved right very quickly at the end of last week's show. You asked me my big predictions for the year, and this might not seem the most clever, but it's bloody hell, it didn't half come home to roost there. And I just made the point about the merger and acquisition activity, both in agency and in proptech, is going to be at probably a much higher rate this year. What have we seen this week? We've already seen then prospects, obviously, of Reading, an absolutely amazing lettings agency, obviously acquired. We've seen who is it? I think it was Chase Buchanan also acquired. Who did they get as well? Chase Buchanan has completed the acquisition of Whitley and Co. So that kicked off there. We saw who was it? Prospects, yes, went to where did they go to? They went over to. Was it Lomond, wasn't it? Yeah, Lomond. So Lomond wasting no time at all, getting off and going there. And then in the biggest story of the week, obviously the most clicked story again, unsurprisingly there, was the Dexter's owners rumoured to be lining up for a £500 million sale. If you think back, I mean, that's such, I saw that kind of just probably came on my radar before many others, because obviously in my Repeat days, because when Jeff Doble went down that big acquisition trail and he kept picking up single office, couple of office agencies around London and doubling down on that. Before it was really, really fashionable, because a lot of those obviously were our Repeat clients. And you look at that empire they built up there now, it's pretty amazing.
You know what? Christian's just said that M&A will be nuts this year. And I sat in on a meeting, and I don't think I am telling tales out of school, but Ian White, who obviously has a finger or two in the M&A pie at any one time, he said that basically this year is going to see even more disruption, even more M&A activity than last year. And it will be the biggest year ever. And there were some pending sales out there that are absolutely stupendous in terms of numbers. The question is, for me, the sub-question is, all this sort of acquisition stuff is very, very nice. And I think it allows certain agencies, so not least Lang Llewellyn, who are on the call this morning, to expand and to grow across their region. And I would not really call Lang Llewellyn a corporate, because they're not, but they're fast becoming, at some point they'll fast become that sort of size, won't they? But the thing is, are we losing something in corporate takeovers? Are those agencies going to lose their personalities? Are people going to become corporate drones? Is there a risk of that happening, or is this actually healthy for the industry?
I don't know about healthy. I mean, I've always find it a little bit depressing, but then I can't really moan because obviously I went down that corporate exit myself as well. That's the way of the world. If you want to quite rightly cash out and enjoy your just desserts, then I think that's the way forwards. Also, as we said, it's so ridiculously hard. Doesn't matter whether you're in on the letting side of things to build that portfolio organically. And the Aussies have been ahead of us again for years. Not that anyone will like that, but that trading of the rent rolls they've done really, really scientifically, and I think that's, people like Rhiannon and Sophie are showing exactly how to do that. And big shout out, of course, Sally at Agent Rainmaker. I mean, Jesus, they would be the first tick on my list for anyone looking to grow their group and their thing from there. So I think that's what's the phrase? I always get this bit wrong, but it is a case of thinking big and acting small, isn't it? I think that if you can contain the best of that, I've always made the point that it is a little bit depressing when a mid-sized agency, and I was doing this very selfishly from a supplier's point of view, where it would make sense for you to work very hard to win their business. There would be enough volume there, but also enough margin in it, so that could really work well. It doesn't get that exciting when then a corporate acquires them and they go straight down to a rate that it's very difficult to make stuff with.
I used to work for an agency in London called Kingsley's Estates. Shout out to all the guys there. And their slogan was always big enough to cope, small enough to care.
Yeah, I love that.
That's really what we're talking about, really, isn't it? And that's what Sophie's saying here, corporate structure, but independence at our core and values. Just want to quickly switch back to what Rhiannon was saying. Serious note, though, the pay in a estate and letting agency is below national minimum wage and gets topped up. It is a joke, but it's the direct result of no sale, no fee.
Yeah.
So that model.
Well, Rhiannon will obviously know from having watched studiously last week's podcast, where we spoke about obviously Ian Preston's, upfront calculator that he's obviously pushing there today, so that where people have the ability to actually demand more upfront to move away from the no sell, no fee, but of course to be able to have that in the kit bag as well. So I absolutely agree. I think that is it's a symptom of it, isn't it? Without a shadow of a doubt.
Absolutely. Okay, right. I'm going to just cover some of the comments and then we'll move on to another point. But it's great to see all these people interacting with us this morning. It's lovely.
I think it's the surprise on your face that I really enjoy.
I knew they'd come. You said eventually, if we carry on this podcast for 9 years.
Who would have thought actually doing a podcast twice
a year, our biannual podcast? Also interesting to see what Dwelly does with acquisitions this year as a different type of player. I'm not intimately familiar with Dwelly. Are you?
Is he talking Dwellant there?
I don't know. What's his? I don't know. I'm going to Google that now. To my shame. Are they like a K-lister client of ours, and I should know about this? The Dwelly Group. Let's have a look. I'm on their website. Acquisition software and succession planning for UK lettings agents. Okay.
They are on our radar now. Dwelly, expect a call tomorrow morning. Well done. Thank you. We'll give you the...
Dwelly, the message is, I don't care how important you are, you're nobody till you have interacted with Kerfuffle. Get on it, baby.
Yeah, look, if we haven't heard of you, what does that say about you? So there you are.
Exactly.
Help us help you.
Robert May, I took a phone call in September 11th, 2001 from Jeff. That phone call's still going on. Hang up, Robert. It's all right. Take a break. September 11th, 2001 from Jeff Doble. He asked for my help getting to 100 offices. He said he wanted a 30% discount. I agreed if he promised to get to 100 branches. So there you go. That's interesting.
So Robert, you're going to be on for a big cut of that $500 million. Then that's get on the phone to him.
Here we go. Christian back again. Most industries and sector are 80-20 to corporate, but ours is the opposite. Increasing compliance and costs will drive a more corporate landscape. Bit of a shame. I've always thought that independent agents is where the true brilliance of our agency shines. Joshua Finley has the growth of corporations through M&A led to the rise of the self-employed model for those agents who don't want the corporate lifestyle?
That's really interesting. I think there's a lot to... When I went to that AXB conference in the middle of last year, there was a lot of them talking on stage about that kick back against that kind of working for the man, and working for corporates and everything else there. So I think that's definitely helping as well, or helping the growth of it. We wanted to talk about EXP though, didn't we?
We did, yeah. So maybe that's our. I mean, we can carry on this fun game of agree or disagree another time, and it's interesting because I think it opens up so many different topics. We had no plan for today's show, so this suits us.
No.
Yeah, it will shock you to learn. First of all, good morning to Sarah Blair. I just want to say that there are few people in this world I love as much as Sarah Blair. Not just because she has to put up with me, but
I was going to say
Simon Whale as well. So there you go. Right, yeah, let's talk about EXP because something happened this week. So Steve Wayne is he Benjamin Stevens? I think he is. Yep. In Edgware in London, in that part of the world, Finchley, that sort of in the bagel belt, as we call it, down there in London. And I think that he was, for a few weeks, a couple of weeks, he was sort of saying something big is coming, something's about to happen, it's about to happen. And then they announced that they have, as an agency, so not as a single agent, but as an agency, joined EXP as a fully baked agency, which I think is quite interesting. I sent Steve a message to sort of congratulate him. We've not had a massive conversation, but I have spoken to sources close to EXP who have said that this sort of move makes total sense for them because it will ultimately bring down a lot of their overheads. It will still allow them to trade under their own brand, obviously with EXP in the tagline there. But it's a very interesting shift. And I think actually what interests me most is I wanted to know how the model works. And I think how it works is that all the fee earners at your agency have to become self-employed in order for this to work. Exactly. So actually, is it a really interesting way that business owners in this day and age can save national insurance? They can save a lot of costs in terms of the overheads from the portals, etc. They've got a very well publicized tie-up with Loop. How much money is that saving those agencies?
Look, I think it's what Adam's done over there with it, and just on that basis, some of those supplier deals. But whereas it's been largely about the individuals today, you're definitely right. I think if we're going to call one thing out there, this year I suspect could be the year of traditional businesses aligning with EXP as well there, and obviously with all of that, those benefits you've just been talking about, your core costs, being able to be done, you're getting all those benefits, obviously, while still being able to have your cake and eat it from you making the big decisions. I was talking to it was interesting at that conference. I was talking to a guy called Jonathan Morgan, lovely agent, Peter Morgan down in Wales. Absolute nutcase, and that's coming from me. But hearing the way it was so beneficial for them, and they've gone down that route, and that is that's a really, really good agent, does a lot of volume and everything else. And hearing from Steve Wayne and everything else talking about it, I think there's going to be a real explosion of that over the course of the year.
Yeah, Sophie's saying we are seeing this a lot with agencies looking at turning their team to self-employed to save costs. We did try it with one of our acquisitions, but it didn't work for us at the time. But it's interesting, all the sort of different comments that you've had this morning. The self-employed model will actually counteract some of the stigmas out there. So, for instance, Ian Dobrin made a comment earlier that that basically amounts to the fact that self-employed models are allowing women actually to get further ahead than they would do sat under a corporate structure, certainly with perhaps male bosses. So I think it's breaking down barriers over there. Benjamin Stevens were part of the SE model in the first place. Steve Wayne is a great agent, Resi Well, thank you, Ian.
He is. Just as an aside again, and it feels like I'm always giving warnings on this show for people, but just don't get stuck with him at the end of a night after the golf, because he just hits it hard. He hits it hard, and I don't want to throw aspersions, because I'm a changed man now.
No, we don't throw shade on this
show. I like, I obviously, going back to it, I love the personalities. You mentioned Katie Paul there, but I think anyone who's interested on that, talk to the likes of Alex Pelosi Buchanan, who's a brilliant advocate for agency in general. And I think that's the bit I've always liked about it is, Adam Day's never came out, and he's never come out and criticised traditional agency in any shape or form, whereas others, as we famously spoke about for years on this, are we the longest running podcast? Oh, it'd have to be Watkins.
We're definitely the longest consistently inconsistent podcast running in the industry. We started before all the others. I think there was only the estate agency podcast that was around before us. Yeah. And they are sadly no more.
Exactly. Well, we saw them off. We'll see off the two Russells as well, and Adam McKay as well. So those guys see. Where you've always said to me, it's clear when I'm doing my webinars that I don't have a Scooby-Doo what 90% of the, especially if it is compliance, and Amy will know this. But what I pay a lot of attention to is I look at the type of agencies, the quality and caliber of the agencies that signs up to proptech propositions, and I think you'd be mad to try and say that there isn't a clear trend now, whereas maybe it wasn't in the very early days, but you can see the likes of Simon Bradbury's, Katie Paws, Adam McKay's, all of these ones that we're talking about now. They've, Tony Ruby, I love that fellow. He had some great news.
Tony Ruby, they talk about EXP agents capping.
Yeah,
that man caps for fun. He does a massive volume where he is, and huge agent.
So I've watched the Chris Watkins one on capping with that quite horrendous watching with him wearing all the different caps. It is still like Homer Simpson being shown a card trick, people trying to explain capping to me. So
to be honest, every time I hear the word capping, I remember the
tripods.
I remember the classes you used to go to when we were pregnant, and they talk about crowning.
I love that. You go back to the most important thing you can do in your life, obviously giving birth, and I go back to the 1980s film TV series, the tripods, where they capped you and turned you. Actually, that's what Elon Musk.
Christian says one of Adam's masterstrokes has been not battling agency and creating a them and us culture. I agree. Actually, he's very, very graceful as Adam. Even when I have ribbed them on stage for various different quirks, they're extremely gracious about it all.
He was very gracious as well when I did get invited to the Christmas party, and he didn't block me. So
amazing. Well done. It looked like a massive bash. We'll talk about that another time. It's an interesting one. Self-employed agency reduces NIC for businesses and inclusive take-home for the employees, but much less security, but greater flex for the business.
It's not right for everybody, is it? And what I like about it is when I've spoken to the guys there, they're very, very clear about talking about what works, what doesn't work, what you've got to be comfortable with. And certain personalities will 100% not be right for it. On the other hand, certain personalities, as many of the ones that bounced around that, as I said, that Sam Cohen and everything else.
Sophie said, I think it's great for an agency, but it brings great uncertainty to the team. It takes a very particular person to be able to thrive under the self-employed model, and it's a lot of pressure and graft.
Well, can I just ask one second? What is that accent? Because
do you know what? There are certain words that I read that in my head turn me into that accent. So, Sophie, have you ever heard how people down here pronounce certain names? Sophie, Toby. So I've got Josh, my colleague at Normie. He called his son Toby. I cannot call him Toby in that middle class tone. I have to call him Toby. You're right, baby Toby. So
okay. You do have, talking about HR, you did have that webinar, which you did, you came straight on the phone to me and burst into tears with, didn't you? Because it was, you couldn't pronounce a name, if you don't mind me.
I'm not good with names. Let's not go there. Ian Dobrin. Check out Linda Stringer. She's the one with the hat, isn't she? She always wears a hat. Is that
and again, this is probably not doing my women in the estate agency credentials there, but I've taken to taking photos of her when I'm sat behind her at conferences and then sending them to her, because that trademark hat is
gets in the way. It gets in the way of seeing.
No, it's just because I thought that was my thing. So yeah,
I love that people have trademarks. Sam Cerrone is another one that he's mentioning there. Mark Ellison, only one of the best agents in the UK, according to Peter Knight.
The best agent.
It depends who you ask. But if you ask Peter Knight, he is. I've got to tell you. No, Mark's a great agent. Whaley and Mincy, can a Sunday get any better? The answer is no. Happy New Year to you as well, Mark. As successful as last year.
That's not true. That's not true. We could do a who was it died on stage?
David Mintz and Simon Well in 2018.
Oh, we did do that. Yeah, no, we did know. But
what a comeback story, though, eh?
I almost, again, my problem with it, I almost said Tommy Robinson there, but I think that's just me there. No, it was
Tommy. What's his name? Tommy Cooper. Tom Cooper.
Do you know the worst part of that again is where they all think it's part of the act?
Yeah. I've watched that clip a million times, and it's horrible. It is horrible. Sophie Lang, it would kill off the shit lazy agents, and I think it would bring up fees, as now people's own livelihoods would be on the line instead of just the business. And I think that's right. I think valuers act a different way when it's coming straight into their pocket.
There is no doubt about it in my mind, from what I've seen from the Australian and American markets, that has a huge degree of truth into it as well. Yeah.
Sophie Lang saying she is West Country. Do you want to do a West Country accent, Whaley? I know you're very good with accents.
No, because every one of mine turned into Apu and he's been taken off The Simpsons. So we don't need that cancel culture here. Mincy, can I add something? A new, you've dredged up in only the way that we can an old feature. Can I add in my new feature for the week?
Please.
Okay, it is the Whaley's glass half full feature of the week. So I was thinking about this, when I was showing you those stories about the most clicked on stories from last year, and they were all so miserable.
Oh, they were very draining.
Everyone, lots of people will say again, it's all about their realists. So I thought as well, we should have at least every now and again something to talk about the positivity that's out there, because there is a lot of great shit. And I want to just read you two news stories, and actually she's down at that neck of the woods. The first one that I quite like was that, and this is from just across the world, was the first national forest in 30 years is obviously is being commissioned, stretching from the Cotswolds to the Mendip Hills. 20 million trees across 2,500 hectares in Gloucestershire, Wiltshire, and Somerset will be put into place. I don't think anyone can have. That's quite nice, isn't it? In this age of everything else, that we're going to be actually looking after the country. But this was the one that jumped out. We were talking about the dangers of AI and everything else and technology in general.
Yeah.
Did you see this story in the press this week? In a medical breakthrough that sounds like the stuff of science fiction, blind people have been again able to read again thanks to a revolutionary eye implant. It was via a microchip that was inserted under the retinas, probably doesn't sound like the nicest operation, of 38 blind people as part of a global study. And they just posted it this week. And 84% of the participants with this device enabled them to see again. Can you imagine that? You've lost the use of your eye, and you're able to go forwards with it on that basis. I think
it's absolutely phenomenal. There is already existing technology without having to have an operation.
Yeah.
So I was involved in something recently where a chap that was blind needed various different technological accessories. So, for instance, glasses that have AI built in, and they basically view the world around you and explain to you in audio what you are, what you are seeing, which I think is very interesting.
So it wasn't like when I had my first Google glasses on, what it must have been 20 years, and I went around Brixton and I was shouting, "Hey, Google glasses, show me the way to XYZ estate agents." And literally a group of 4 kids was following me, and it started to get a bit dicey.
It did. You shouldn't be recording kids with your Google glasses anyway.
Look,
right, I'm going to cover off.
What you're trying to do. I know what you're trying to do. You keep trying to make out that I've been on that island. I hate islands.
He hate not people from Ireland, please. We're a big fan of the state agencies in Ireland. Big shout out to Mary Lou Press. How you doing?
Mary Lou, the lovely Mary Lou, and Nee from D&G. They're great over there as well. So yeah,
they're all good. I'm going to cover off some of because I think we've only got time to do this. We'll cover off the last of the comments because they're coming in thick and fast today. So let's cover Joshua Finlay Tar, our friend from Repit. Greater numbers of self-employed agents will eventually lead to regulation around what is required to qualify as an agent, similar to the US, and we could eventually need licenses. And there is a theory that will raise standards, actually. So it might not be a bad thing at all. There is a lot of talk about disenfranchised young people as housing is unobtainable. Perhaps self-employed agency or staff shares are the way to tackle it. And as Sophie says, get true but in. Let's have a quick look what that means. Can we have another shout out for the fabulous Sharka Wild, who sets off to I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that name. You know I'm no good with names.
Akonga.
A Wimbaway, a Wimbaway, a Wimbaway, a Wimbaway. In the mighty jungle, Sharka is going to be climbing one of the highest mountains in the world this week. She's off there and she wanted to raise 10K, largely thanks to the efforts of Simon Whale at the Relocation Agent Network Conference. But seriously, the support that she has had has been epic. She has been unrelenting. And she is now past 20K. Let's get her past 25K, as the Property Mark Trust is epic and deserves every penny. I agree with you.
It's good. I mean, if you obviously, I did probably because by that stage I had a couple of drinks, but and I did roast her a little bit on stage. But Sharka, as I said on stage when I tried to get serious for a second, is one of the greatest people within this industry. The stuff that she goes out of her way to do, she's always got a smile on her face. I mean, the positivity that comes out of her.
You know, you talk about motivation and achieving a goal if you set it and being relentless and really being focused. If I could just get hold of Sharka's DNA and use that then to build a super agent, my God, I'd take over the world overnight.
It feels like you're going against the women in
I'm not sure it's legal. She'd have to consent to give me the DNA. We'll talk about it later, Sharka. Good luck, love.
The other point is, I know she was doing a practice walk with Susanna Mavity as well yesterday. So if that doesn't deserve an extra 5K for having to listen to those stories,
insurance, isn't it? Because I think if you can go up a mountain and still come down alive with Mavs, then you're doing all right. You're doing all right. Canada has developed a fully compostable battery with no heavy metals, etc., from trees. Wow, tree sap.
Oh, you're playing with us now, aren't we? We're gonna have to fact check all this.
Ian Dobrin, never a true word. Great show, guys. Possibly one of the best I've heard today. If you want a positive story, this is one coming in from Sophie Lang. You have to look at how the Cornish community has rallied around after the storm. We still have thousands of people without water and power. An estimated 30,000 trees fell, many on cars, vans, houses, blocking off whole towns. I think one man was in a caravan was killed actually by a falling tree. So many local businesses have opened their doors to provide electricity, warmth, water and food. Community is everything, and I am very proud of where
that is absolutely spot on. You know, because I mean, it was. I think that I saw her post, and they were making the point that the winds were 123 miles per hour, which is like, is hurricane level. So all this talk about, the global warming is happening, regardless of anything else, that is one of the most brutal storms you can ever hope to get.
Go Sharka. Sharka's there with us today. Go Sharka. What a challenge. Many don't appreciate how dangerous it is. And if you haven't donated already, please do. Thank you so much both for the kind words, and thank you, Whaley, for selling yourself at an auction. It is the greatest gift that can ever be given to mankind.
Now, here's one thing. Selling yourself is very easy. Delivering on it, that's entirely different. So
I'm going to leave, since we made this the agree or disagree show, and I think it's something that we're going to bring back regularly because I quite like the way that it opens up the conversation.
Because it allows you to wing it.
It allows me to basically turn up with no notes except for something like women in the state agency, should they do more washing up? You know, so things like that. Yeah. Any else? Agree or disagree coming in from Robert May. This is interesting, and you might wish to answer it, or you might wish to think about it till next week. Agree or disagree? The property industry is overdue a trade press that isn't afraid to bite the hand that feeds it. Currently, if you're advertising with the incumbents, you get soft coverage. If you're disrupting them, you get ignored. We need a fresh outlet that asks hard questions and covers what's actually happening.
Let's take this offline. That is a good one. Let's do this next week, Mincy.
That will be the theme of our show next week. Will be trade press. Famously, Rob, massive fan of and a huge friend of Ros when she was at Property Industry, Ros Renshaw, and so he remembers how it used to be done. But we've been talking about this for a long time, haven't we? In terms of whether trade press becomes just a string of press releases, effectively announcing new products, etc., or is it there to really expose real issues?
Anyone's got any thoughts? Jump on next week or send us it in advance as well, and we'll. That means we don't have to wing it quite as much. Wing it with Whaley. There you go.
Okay, guys, a lot of love to you people out there in property world. Go sell some things. Go let some things. Make the world a better place, like you always do.
Have a fab week. Bye.
Love you all.